Town of Board of Health to order at 4 o'clock here on March 10th, 2021. And I think you heard the voiceover of the meeting is being recorded by our administrative assistant, as well as, I assume, Jack Carino. If anyone else is recording, please let us know. Need to read our statement of our remoteness. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18 of the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people who may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Adams Board of Health is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided in the order. Attending remotely are members Dr. Peter Hoyt, Dr. Laura Grandchamp, and myself, Dr. David Rhodes. We have posted today's agenda, which included the call-in information for today's meeting. I also included my phone number, my cell phone number on the agenda, so that if anyone has trouble getting in, they can call me. Despite our best efforts, if we are not able to provide for real-time access for the public to participate in today's meeting, a recording of this meeting will be made available. As we are participating remotely, all votes will be taken by roll call. And finally, I think we have a good list of who all is here. The board members: Pam Cherry, admin assistant; Mark Blaisdell, code enforcement; Gerald Gardner, building, it's not inspector, building commissioner; Jack Carino from iBerkshires. So thank you all. Let me go down to my agenda here. I believe the first item is the minutes from our 2 February meetings. Have you both had a chance to review them?
I wasn't at the February 10th meeting, so.
No, the minutes are rather empty, but we don't need your vote, but you may abstain. Pete, or either of you for the 17th?
I've read both. I have comments on the 10th.
Okay.
I was just wondering, so on the minutes, it says that the meeting was called, and then there's the other agenda items are still on there. I think that creates some confusion that that stuff was discussed or could have been discussed. Can we just eliminate all the rest of the stuff on that page?
I did notice that. I would be totally in favor of, yes, meeting was terminated. And no further items were considered. Right. We make that, take that as an amendment to the minutes.
Yeah, and I think that just eliminates confusion, because somebody who looks at that could think that we still discuss those agenda items that were on there. So.
Okay.
That's the only change I had with the 10th, and the 17th, I had no changes.
I didn't have any changes on the 17th.
So maybe we can have a motion to approve minutes from both of those meetings with the amendment that any agenda items beyond termination of the February 10th meeting be stricken from those minutes.
I think we need to do them separate, because Laura's going to abstain from the 10th. So
okay.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the 10th as amended.
Abstain.
So I second it. All those in favor, Pete?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. And Laura?
Abstain.
You have to say abstain.
Abstain.
So the minutes are approved 2-0 to 1.
And
may I have a motion to approve the February 17th minutes as written, as provided by Pam Jerry.
Motion to
Motion.
approve the minutes for the 17th.
Second.
And any discussion? No, hearing none.
Well done,
Pete?
Pam.
Yes. Pete? Laura?
Yes.
And Dave says yes, those minutes pass unanimously, 3-0. Moving on, I do not see any member of the public to comment, although Jerry Garner not generally with us. Is there anything you would like to say?
No, not at this time. I'm just here just to observe, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
right.
Welcome.
All right, no problem.
So we do not have a hearing, a public hearing today, so Mark does not have a code enforcement report per se, although it has a number of things on the agenda. So we will move on to old business. COVID update. I will just say thankfully that cases are back down again, still higher than what they were over the summer, but it's looking good. The number of deaths is still higher than acceptable, but also going down. We will talk about a little bit, a few more specifics. Berkshire County is doing fairly well in terms of COVID. I don't think I have heard of a new case in Adams for maybe about a week. And so keeping fingers crossed. We will move on unless either of you have anything to say or questions.
No.
So moving on to Mount Royal, that was continued or tabled from last meeting because not all of Mr. Bukhari's permits had been approved yet. So Mark, do you have an update?
Yes, so the update is simply that the building commissioner has not been able to complete his inspection of the establishment. So what I would like to do is send a second notice of non-compliance to the business owner. I do have good service for the January 6th notice and have him appear before the board at the April meeting, at which time the board will make a review and decide whether or not to suspend or revoke their lodging permit.
That sounds reasonable to me. Thank you for your patience and continued attention. Do we hear anything from Laura, Pete, or Jerry?
Yeah, this is Jerry Garner. I have been down there several times. I gave them a list of things they need to complete down there. The manager, well, for lack of a better term, isn't much of a manager. He's not leaning into getting any of the documents. He gave me one document. He has given me nothing else for the system testing or anything up there. So I can't even get the fire chief to sign off on anything. And so therefore I will not conduct a physical inspection going through the buildings myself until this paperwork is complete. Every time I go down there, they don't seem to understand that I need this paperwork before I can conduct my inspection. So I'm with Mark on this. If this continues, then I think that everything should be suspended, and I'm just going to send them a notification telling them that they're going to have to close if they don't start presenting something soon, because I'm only going to give them a few more days. I'm going to send them a letter. So that's where I'm at.
Is there anything we can do in terms of issuing an ultimatum, a date certain or whatever?
Well, I think everything's contingent on the fact that they don't have their C of I. I've talked to the owner. He's leaving it entirely in the manager's hands. I don't know how else I can convey to them how important it is to do this. They're just not doing it. And I don't want to start a trend here. So if you want to call them or you want to discuss anything with them, be my guest. I don't know if it's going to do anything because they just seem like they're just going to ignore everything. I will say, however, that their license is sitting up on the town administrator's desk up there, and it's not going to move until they give us the documents we need.
Okay, if no one has objections, I haven't touched base with him, and since soon after they open, I was actually pleased to meet Mr. Bukhari and the establishment that he has recreated there. So I would like just not to just to make basically a friendly, hey, it would be nice to have you back on board kind of. Would that impinge on anybody's authority or sensibility?
No.
Okay, let me see what a little push will give. So thank you.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you thank you for keeping things basically strict and by the rules. Okay, moving on to annual report. I am sorry I struggled with the budget as it was. I'm not sure I will be able to complete a budget, at least with the information that I have received. I have been in communication, unfortunately it was just today, from the accountant's office, and the budget run sheet is actually very confusing. So I may just have to bag out on that. But having said that, have you had a chance to review the additional tables that I entered thanks to Mark's? I did make one mistake. It was I forget 1-3 was, I said 2, it's 4. So I did proofread it, and I have confidence that the numbers that I sent out are correct.
David, I didn't see any additional. When did you send this?
Would have been just early afternoon.
Oh, yeah, I haven't checked my email much today, so.
I have not checked it since this morning, so.
I'm gonna try to pull it up now.
If I can. Let me do this. It is here. Okay. So can you all see that? On your screen? Is my screen sharing?
Yes.
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 Yeah, so this was the list that Mark sent me, an Excel sheet, and I converted it to this Word table for so I could send it to Deb as such. And these were the numbers of permits. These were the fees collected, with 2 caveats: a refund of $100, and there were waivers of $1,200. So from these items, $13,235 revenue dollars were realized. then Mark listed his additional, well, not his, but additional activity, including his numbers of businesses closed, new businesses, and so on and so on. Condemnations rescinded, 3, and the various code enforcement, such as tobacco related cases, food code cases, and so forth. And so I think it's important to include these in our annual report as a just so the town knows how, particularly how busy Mark has been despite the pandemic. So things have been going on, and
Yeah, I agree, David. I think this is good to include, and thanks, Mark, for putting that together. Appreciate it.
and then I will see what I can deal with over the next. I might be able to add a budget after our April meeting. I'll check with Deb about that. This is so there are a lot of, there's a lot of back and forth in the budget. I won't go into detail, but okay. So may we have a motion? Oh, and the only other change here that I had was from Sharon Burke, that he didn't like my flip referral of the specialty minerals quarry as a big hole. So I have changed that to previously mined quarry.
Yeah, I agree with that change, David. My other question was, we have pictures of SMI stuff in there. Should we include a copy of the tobacco regs since that was discussed, or is that not necessary to put that on there?
So what do we say? We say the tobacco regs are a major effort. And
I mean, just attach it as an appendix or something, or is it not worth putting those in there?
well, not in our glossy. How about if we just say in the tobacco regulations that copies are available on the website?
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, that'll work.
So at some point, I will just add in here that a copy of the 2020 regulations are available on the Board of Health website. Okay, that makes total sense. So thank you, and I will be back regarding the rest, the budget. May I have a motion to accept the annual report up to this point as amended?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion?
No.
Pete, what say you?
Yes.
Laura?
yes,
And Dave says yes also. So thank you all. Thank you all. Okay. I do not see Tracy or John Sheeran. Do we have any information, Mark, regarding, I did get an email from Attorney St. John, which I will mention after I hear from Mark if he has.
Okay. So the building commissioner has not signed off on their permit. The facility still needs a little bit of work. So I would guess by the next meeting in April that those items will have been corrected by then. And I would expect before the next meeting, I will be able to do the opening inspection for them to operate the retail adult only inside the establishment.
What Attorney St. John said in his email, and I don't know if he sent it out to all of us, but he did send it to me in response, because if you remember our last meeting, he asked me to forward him our 2014 and 2020 regulations, and he did indeed indicate, as Laura suggested, that the 2020 does indeed supersede the 2014. So the 2014 regulations are out the window. However, looking at the 2020, he advised that Original Seed should indeed obtain a cigar lounge permit. And that has been one of the the recent issue that has come up. And so I don't know how to deal with that at this point. In the absence of them, I don't want to go any further other than to relay what Attorney St. John said.
Okay, so we could just table this until the next meeting?
We can, I'm more than happy to do that. I am, of course, cognizant of their needs and time frame. But the fact that they're not here tonight suggests, they were on the agenda. So I just want to make sure that they know we are continuing to proceed from our point of view. So, okay, we'll make sure we have an actual invitation to them for our April meeting.
Okay, I'll get that done.
Can I ask, this question might be more for Jerry, I guess, but are you able to disclose like how much work or what specific things need to be done to the building?
I actually received an email today, and they would like they're requesting an inspection. I was unable to do that today. I've been busy,
Okay.
but I'm going to try to get over there tomorrow to do an inspection on there. But they were pretty well completed when I went over there the last time. There were several items that they needed to complete in order to get it, including construction control sign off from the architect. So I think they may be totally done at this point on my end.
Okay, thanks, Jerry.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. The next order of business that I have on there was the judgment of the Attorney General's office on the allegation of open meeting law violation by Catherine Foster. Again, she's not here, although the letter was sent to us. I believe it would not be inappropriate for me just to state the conclusion. Actually, if I can pull up the conclusion of this 4-page letter, it says, for the reasons stated above, we find that the board did not violate the open meeting law. We now consider the complaint addressed by this determination to be resolved. This determination does not address any other complaints that may be pending with our office or the board. Please feel free to contact the division. She gives her phone number, Sarah Monahan. So you all had it, and this was sent to Catherine Foster as so we have all received this. So any other comments at this point? So okay, we can let this rest. Thank goodness. And so now moving on to new business. Let me call up my, come on, guy. Sorry, I can't get back to full screen here. Not sure what's happening. But anyhow, I can still see you all. So the first order of business is moving to in-person meetings as recommended by Jay Green, Town Administrator. And I would say for myself that my second dose of the Moderna vaccine is scheduled for March 31st, and going by the CDC guidelines of 2 weeks, you can feel safe. I would actually like to think about holding our next meeting on April 14th instead of the 7th, because that would be the 2 weeks for me. The two of you may make your own decisions, but that was my decision, feeling like if I'm fully vaccinated, then I feel like I can, well, it's not totally without reservation, but that I can feel safe and confident in attending a meeting outside my house. So do either of you have any thoughts or just want to wait and see?
I don't have any particular concerns about my safety as long as it's set up appropriately with the precautions, but I do have some concerns about me actually bringing thing in because just due to my work, we can't physically socially distant at work, and I am, just because of the nature of euthanasias, I am exposed to members of the public. Even though they're masked, they're generally very emotional, and I do get exposed to their respiratory secretions on a routine basis. So I'm not eligible for the vaccine until tier 3.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it would depend on how comfortable you are with me coming in.
I totally agree. I mean, it's not, it's not just about you. It's about, yes.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate your concerns, and
We're still gonna have this online portion anyways. Because
right.
we won't be able to access. So I think, just when the time comes, if you just make a decision at that point, whether you want to be in town hall or not, I don't,
I mean, I feel I mean, this remote stuff it's getting tired. So
I agree.
and so I'm eager to get out and willing to be in the forefront here as once I'm fully vaccinated, and so we'll take some baby steps, and yes, that's good. And I'll try to arrange how do we recast the agenda or whatever. I'll make sure I get it right so we don't screw anything up. So, okay, I will let Jay know.
So are we going to meet the 14th then instead of?
Why don't we wait until the end when we do the meeting thing? But that's my suggestion here and now, and we'll see when we get down there if that suits. So moving on to Kozak and Sons, that Mark said that has been resolved, and so we can skip over that item on the agenda. But we do want to move to unpermitted haulers that Mark has expressed concern about unpermitted haulers in town.
So I have gotten a few complaints of individuals collecting solid waste who are not permitted by the town. All I could do is make just observe while I'm out and about, and if I see anybody picking up solid waste, I could approach them and inform them of our town regulation. I've also notified the police department and asked them to do the same. And when they encounter those individuals, to obtain the person's name, vehicle description, where they're picking up trash, and then to notify me. I've also thought about the idea of amending our current regulations and asking the board to approve the issuance of fines upon individuals who do use non-permitted solid waste haulers.
So I have a couple questions. One is scrap, particularly scrap metal. I know that's been an issue with some of the haulers because there are these scrappers that run around and just pick up metal that they pull out, which of course hurts the bottom line of our permanent haulers. Has that raised to your radar yet?
Yes, and in Pittsfield, we had a city ordinance that that covered the scrappers' activities. So the scrappers, by the very definitions of refuse, trash, rubbish, and debris, would require the scrappers to have a town permit. I also, when I do code enforcement upon the vacant properties, and I find an establishment doing a clean out for the bank, I do inform them and the bank of the town's requirement for a permit for individuals who haul trash and do clean outs of those vacant properties. I have not yet found any of them to have obtained their permit, nor have I encountered them a second chance to follow up as to why they haven't obtained their permit.
And then my second, well, thank you. That's good. So we do have a model in terms of Pittsfield for such an ordinance. So that's good. My second question is, if I have a handshake deal with my neighbor and say, hey, whatever, I'll take your stuff to the dump, you're old, whatever. That would not fall under unpermitted hauler.
That would, if, and this is where Ed St. John would come in, is whether or not they're taking money. So I mean, if you're taking your neighbor's trash because he or she just had surgery, for example, that's good-naturedness. However, if you're doing it on a regular basis and taking compensation for it, then that would, in my opinion, constitute a business and would require a permit.
Right, and I could see if it's 10 neighbors versus one neighbor too, but yeah, so you're right. Let's see what Attorney St. John has to say. And then, just jumping on to the next one, because the next item is, as you, a fine for residents who use unpermitted haulers. Is that that seems to be fairly difficult, maybe to enforce or monitor?
The enforcement is more difficult if there is no language on the books and you do make the encounter. As long as the language was there, and then you encountered such a circumstance, you could enforce it. But right now, the responsibility rests solely with our permitted haulers or the individuals who are hauling without permits. There is no accountability whatsoever for a constituent to use a non-permitted hauler.
So before I discuss with you, ask your advice about strategy going forward, Laura, Pete?
I guess my immediate question is, how's the public going to be informed who's permitted and who's not? I mean, if you're just looking in the phone book or whatever for a business, for anything, whether it's selling this or an electrician or, do we know that they are licensed and have a permit? I mean, is that something that, I guess, how are they going to be educated on that?
Well, when you're going to hire a service, you can always ask the individual if they're permitted by the town. And if they say yes, you could ask for a copy of the permit. The hauler is actually supposed to keep a copy of this in the truck with them.
Right. But I guess,
They could always, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, they could always print these up, the permits up at home from the website and send them to, or post them on their webpage if they have such a thing.
yeah,
But it is available to the customer if they ask for it.
right. And that I do understand that, Mark, but I guess I'm saying that if I called up a company, company ABC and said, I've got trash to be hauled, and they said, okay, what's the address? And I told them Adams, wouldn't they just say, oh, we're not permitted to haul in Adams? And I would rely on that as opposed to, they'd say, oh yeah, we'll be there Friday. I'm like, well, can you bring a copy of your permit, or something like that? I guess the onus would be more on the business than the individual to provide that. I guess it's more difficult for me to say, the individual, the consumer's at fault for that. I guess when I go into a restaurant, I'm not always looking to make sure they're up to date on their permits and all that.
On the other hand, the town bylaw does include mandatory recycling for residents, although there are no teeth in that. But there is precedent for us placing onus on the resident, him or herself.
Yes, and I understand that point, but we're also providing education for them and telling them what, how are we going to educate consumers on this and who's permitted and who's not. And that, that changes a lot. People might not have sent their money in or got renewed and,
Well, there's always the option for the constituent to call my office and ask if a particular business is permitted.
Right, I understand that, but again, most people don't do that. They don't even think of doing that. When you're looking for a service, you're just worried about, getting this
Cost.
out of my yard rather than, is it permitted or not?
Right.
Licensed. I guess that's the way I'm looking at it. So I don't disagree. I'm just trying to, understand how are people going to be educated on it, I guess is my point.
Well, can we plan on looking at a draft regulation next meeting? And I will take the lead here in looking up Pittsfields and with Mark's help. And, we do have some ability to advertise, but it is limited, depends on what people have signed up for, or whether it's reverse 911 or whatever. But I think the important thing is to in actual fact protect our permitted haulers, because they're the ones who do it by the book. The question is, do we need a public hearing in order to, and certainly the public hearing would engender some level of publicity.
There would need to be a public hearing for amending or modifying the regulation.
Yes, I agree.
So can we schedule that public hearing for our next meeting? Consideration of amending our solid waste disposal to include a mandate for using permitted haulers and whatever else. That makes sense.
That's fine with me.
Okay, so yeah, let's do it. Thank you, Maya. I mean, this is, yeah, I do get complaints, particularly from my neighbor who is a hauler, and it's yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's that I think a large part of this, I think, is protecting those enterprises that go by the book, and I think that's really important for us.
I agree.
All right, Mark, you're up again. In-home vaccination, and were you on the Dan Doyle phone?
Not today, I wasn't, no.
Because I believe what Laura Kitros said is, for some reason, her audio is just so low on my phone. But what she said is that for the in-home, she's recommending that we go with the state plan, that we allow the Massachusetts, and there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that if we did the in-home ourselves, whether it's Adams and our Northern Berkshire REPC or the collaborative, it does not entitle us to extra vaccine, whereas if the state does it, they use their own vaccine. So
Right.
it would be a win-win for us.
Right, so my recommendation also would be to use the state's program, because we don't have the resources to manage that ourselves. So that would be my recommendation, is that we partner with the state.
Nancy Slattery was extraordinarily happy. So, okay, I will relay this to Laura Kitros, that we're on board, and
Do we need a vote?
Yes, we need to vote.
all right. May I have a motion to accept the Massachusetts state program for vaccinating in-home individuals in Adams?
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Pete, what say you?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave says yes, so the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. 3-0. Moving on to updates. It's a little background. I don't know how much of this you have followed on our county email, but the CDC every year provides public health money to states. It goes to the Department of Public Health, funneled into the Office for um, Preparedness and Emergency Management. And then they dole out funds as grants to municipalities and or for us, we have the county coalition. And basically, we've been level funded for these. These are grants to carry out preparedness exercises and so on and so forth. And we've been very effective at completing the deliverables for the funds and so forth. But the issue is that it seems like we get very little choice, and no money actually goes out to the local boards of health to help with our work. And so this year, as we have in the past, not only did we refuse to concur with the funding strategy, but planning, some of our planners at the Health Alliance, at the Health Association, wrote up a very nice letter. And I don't know, did that get sent to you? It was sent around, at least for the executive committee. So I will forward that to you just so you're up to speed, but it's basically, they're asking us to agree to something that is not really fully in our benefit, and they're basically asking for a more equitable split of the money between salaries for the Office of Preparedness and Emergency Management and basically us here on the ground. So I will send that around to you. The second update, Mark, are you? Oh, okay. The second update has to do with the. I think I can talk about this. As you know, the state has now moved K through 12 teachers up, and that's actually bad for municipal workers, but it's obviously good for schools and to give school. And so not only are teachers, but all school personnel now eligible. Starting, they can sign up tomorrow. So the good news is that our school personnel will be able to get vaccinated. Bad news is we don't have vaccine. So I did send out a letter to our 3 principals, and they were very happy to know that they could start signing up tomorrow. And Mark and I are coordinating them in order to try to maximize. The second piece on that actually is that you may have seen the state is now opening up a registration system for future vaccine appointments, which is great. You two haven't had to go through it yet, but I have. It's a pain in the neck, but as you know, I did get an appointment because I could sit at my computer and just keep pushing the refresh button, and I finally got in. But they will now have an official waiting list, so the teachers can actually sign up for the state waiting list, which would make them eligible for vaccination in Springfield, one of the 7 state max vax sites, as well as when Berkshire County does get their next allotment, they can work through the collaborative as I did. So just to keep you posted that, between Mark and me, we will try to keep our schools informed of what the strategies should be and just encourage them. And of course, this is important because DESE has now mandated that elementary schools have to start in school starting on April 5th. And so that's going to roll around pretty darn quickly. Trying to balance their needs and what we have and just give them the best advice. Is there any thoughts either of you have or questions or Mark? Hearing none, we will proceed because it's basically one of the things we're supposed to do. Two other pieces of mail that came in, and again, I think I can say these without making a decision, is Jim Willis sent around an email saying that companies were now marketing flavored hemp wraps. And the question is, we define them in our regulation, but we do not regulate them. And so I would like to raise that as a discussion issue and potentially amending our tobacco regulations to conform with what we think we should do. So did either of you see Jim's email are you on his list? Jim Willis's
Yes.
email? You
Yeah,
saw
I
it?
got the email.
Yeah, I got it as well.
Okay, so that's it. And then the second email, I think I just got it today, is that FERCog, Franklin County Regional Council of Governments is hosting a informational webinar next Thursday, the 18th, on the Public Health Excellence Grant, because we are indeed getting money for regionalization of public health efforts. And if did either of you see that in your email? I will sign up for it. I think it's from like 5 to 6:30 on the 18th, Thursday. Let me just forward it to you so that just to if and that's all I have for the good of the order.
I have nothing.
And then for next meetings, may I ask that our April meeting be on 14th?
That's fine with me. Would you prefer I come or stay home? And do it electronically.
Well, I would love to see you.
Well, I
In
I
person.
just don't want to make
But-
anybody
but-
uncomfortable.
But no, I'm making my own decision, and you two, absolutely. I have, no judgments. So please do what you think is right. And so just because I'm an old guy, for one thing, being an old white guy, I have an advantage.
Is town hall still locked?
Yes. Mark?
Yes,
Yes, yeah. So, but Jay
So we
has,
have to, do we just call Mark or Pam or something to let us in when we get there?
we can do that.
Okay,
I would simply advise, however, that on the meeting notice, the agenda, that we keep it for the public, that this is a virtual meeting. I mean, you board members could come here to Town Hall and host your virtual meeting via Zoom from Town Hall. And just, we restrict the access only to town officials.
Right.
Sounds, so we actually don't have to change how the agenda reads.
Correct.
Okay, that's always good. And then in May, the first two Wednesdays are the 5th and the 12th. Kind of thinking, well, it doesn't matter to me. The 12th would be 4 weeks.
I'm fine with either day. I'm in final exams both of those times, so either one, it doesn't matter.
Shall we wait until next month to decide, or
No, it's,
let's say the 12th then, and all right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Excuse me.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Pete,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
and Dave says yes, so we at 4:57 on the 10th of March, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all and take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.